Welcome to The Verdict, and a busy show coming up in the company of me and Angus McNae. We're not just going to cross the country, we're going to cross the globe as well, because, Angus, it was the second week of the carnival out at Meydan.
Yeah, it's been going really well. Fantastic couple of weeks thus far, and looking forward to next week when the Cape Verde will be the feature event. But so far we've seen some really good action out at Meydan. A number of horses have competed out there that ran World Cup night last year, and it's been good to see them.
So we're going to pick out a couple of races from there, actually a couple of races from Ludlam and Canton on that Thursday as well. And we have the history makers on the show as well, Sceaux and the new one.
Yeah, it's been fantastic performances from both of those horses, I thought. We'll review them in detail in a moment or two. I thought that the weekend, as far as jumping was concerned, was very much ground affected. We had some wide margin winners, didn't we? And the ground was very attritional at Ascot and at Haydock as well. So that's something to bear in mind when we look back at everything.
Let's do that now then. We're going to take a look at Ascot first of all. The Clarence House, of course, was rerouted previously, but Sceaux, having won it at Ascot and on another track, was looking to win it for a third straight time. The key feature here, when we see the start of the race, is the fact that Sceaux actually is not quick enough to lead, is he? It's Speradek who's going to lead them along, and he takes them along at a furious pace. So I suspect that Paul Townend was happy with Plan B, perhaps.
I think he probably was, Alex. I think this horse is much more amenable to restraint now than he used to be, isn't he? He was a bit of a tearaway Sceaux, but with age now, he's happy to sit in and get a lead, and there's no way Paul wanted to be going quicker than Speradek, because he's really, in the conditions, he's really bowling along very quickly. This race, in terms of a time, was the quickest race, as you might expect, of the day, and the quickest race by some way as well. They've got a real honest gallop. We're
going through the early stages of it. You'll look to the inside and you'll see that Brain Power in the light silks and the black cap. He jumped well enough in the main until late on. He was a little bit keen through the early stages of the race.
Yeah, that's him, isn't it? He can pull a bit hard. He can be a little bit keen. I sort of got him down as being a decent ground horse, a strong travelling decent ground horse with a little bit of a turn of foot, and I'm not sure that this sort of test was what he necessarily wanted, but he did shape pretty well until he took a very heavy fall, which fortunately he got up from.
We'll come back to that later on. But it's amazing, you get horses like Speradek who come along every once in a while, who can go what seems too fast to gallop. It seems like he's always doing too much, and yet he can maintain that, and we know that Sceaux is just a classier example of that, particularly when he's got his soft ground. Yeah, soft ground, that's the key to him, isn't it? Ruby Walsh has always said this whenever we've interviewed him here on Racing UK, that soft ground is the key to Sceaux, and he just can go at one pace for the whole race. He can just keep rolling, and that's something that Speradek couldn't do, although Speradek, in finishing second, emerges with plenty of credit. Yes, indeed, because let's not forget, he was 20+ pounds inferior. Nigel Hawke and the team really did throw the dice, and ultimately they were right to do that. Yeah, I think it was a really good shout. I mean, it lacked a little bit of strength in depth, the race, and they've got this horse in a race where he can certainly finish in the money, and he did, and run with a great deal of credit. Oh, bad mistake from him there, wasn't it? A really bad mistake. Whereas Brain Power and Sceaux and Kyle Morlock, who eventually finishes third, they're jumping quite slickly in behind. Yeah, very much so. I suspect Sir Mark might have sent a letter to Nigel and said, hey, what are you doing? You've wasted 1.5 stone there, pal. Well, that's the sort of downside of it all, isn't it? That the handicapper is going to have his say. Of course, in days gone by, this was a handicap, and he'd been getting absolute lumps from Sceaux, wouldn't he? And he probably would have won. Exactly. On Saturday. Yeah, indeed. Actually, it'll be interesting to see where this leaves them going forward. Now we'll come back to the bigger players, but having dipped his toe in it at this level, do you trust this as a sort of ratings performance strictly? I wouldn't be going too mad about it, I don't think. I mean, he's bowled along in front, he's got his own way. It's an improved effort, so he's going to have to take a bit of a jump up in the weights, that's obvious. But I wouldn't, I think it would be harsh to really hammer him. And just as they're about to in the old days, you'd hear the Ascot bell, wouldn't you? Yeah. Yes, they're about to turn for home. When we think about the market move throughout the week for Brain Power, he was something like top price 8-1, clipped in all through the week to 4s, and then around 7-2 on the day. Was that a bit of fashion and hype? Was it about people trying to play in the race and find a bit of value against the odds on? I think that's what it was, because he's
He's a horse of immense promise, isn't he, Brain Power? He was a very good hurdler last year. Didn't all work for him in the Champion Hurdle, when a lot of people thought he'd run well at a big price. And maybe people didn't think that the ground was going to be quite as soft as it ended up being in the end. And that, for me, that played against him, because as soon as he came off the bridle, turning in there, he's in Michael Buckley's white colours. He has stopped, really. He's found absolutely nothing. He's, 4 lengths down there when he falls upside Speredek. I'm not even sure he would have been second, but he'd have been obviously in the frame. But this is where Underso really asserts, doesn't he, under Paul Townend? And this is sort of my point about him, and Ruby said this before, he just keeps going. It's not as if he quickens but he just keeps rolling, and he's a grand little horse, he really is, and he retains all his enthusiasm for racing, doesn't he? Even though apparently at home he works the house down and he pulls their arms out on the gallops, but still he retains all his enthusiasm.
Well, you could see almost, actually, he's trying so hard when he jumped that second last. You can almost see him crossing his jaw, the way he was using himself. But Angus mentioned the record, and it is a remarkable one as well, isn't it? Because 20th win now out of something like 26 starts. I mean, we're going to talk about a few horses who, if you were an owner or a trainer or a jockey, you'd just love to be connected. As we see that tired fall.
That's the right word. I think he was very tired.
And
look, he's taken a while to get up as well.
He was winded afterwards. He took his time to get back up, but thankfully he did. Would he have finished second?
I'm not sure he would have done. I think he was getting pretty tired. And Speredek, to his credit, he boxed on reasonably well in behind her. I've got a feeling he might have been third, Brain Power, to be honest. But Underso, I don't think Paul Townend's had to ask him for everything, really. It's just hands and heels. And he just keeps rolling, this fella. Soft ground's very important to him, but he retains all of his ability.
So where does this leave us with some of those horses? Brain Power, it's back to the drawing board. That's an unseat and a fall in 2 starts on just his 3rd career jumping start as well. I
really would like to see Brain Power on a sharpish track, Kempton, on decent ground, because I think he's just got so much speed. He travels strongly. I wouldn't give up on him over fences just because he's had one fall.
This guy's the Ryanair champion as well. It's the obvious race for him on better ground, we suspect. We don't know.
Yeah, that's the only thing, isn't it? But I think he could operate. He'll operate on good ground, won't he? And he's going to be favourite for the Ryanair. He deserves to be.
He's 10 now. Where there are some young guns coming in behind. There's of course Fox Norton stepping up trip should he come back, snapping away at his heels. You've got Little Top Notch, who bar that mistake late on last year would have given York Hill a fright, I think, in the JLT. I've actually backed him at prices because I think he'll be in the thick of it.
Yeah, I think he's going to run as well, because when we look at the prices we'll see that there's a few that aren't necessarily going to take part. Jacadam, for example, is in there, and he might run in the Gold Cup. We don't know where York Hill's going yet. We don't know
waiting
where
patiently ground.
So Top Notch is one that will definitely run. I'd say Underso will turn up as well, but I think it's I'm a massive York Hill fan, but I want to see him back at 2 miles. So whether it's hurdles or fences,
well,
I don't
you
care.
might get your wish. Champion Hurdle seems to be the preferred route. And what's your take? Final word on this. When it comes to older horses at the Cheltenham Festival, particularly in the championship races, Moscow Flyer is the exception rather than the rule. He's 10 now under Sceaux. Does that preclude him getting it done, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think he just showed there in the Clarence House that he's still got it.
Okay.
He's still all there. It just depends who turns up really against him. But he could win it.
Who turned up on Saturday at Ascot? Some classy types.